Well, I'm going to go over something on this M1 Carbine. Actually, you can see this is an M1 Carbine that's stainless synthetic. It's got a folding stock on it, but I'm going to tell you something about a part of it that needs to be cleaned sometimes that a lot of people ignore. You really need a special tool to get at it, but there's another way you can clean it. And you could see also that, get this thing up here a second. There, you got to press that button in to get it. This is a Z-Tel stock. Boy, they advertise this as unbreakable, can't destroy it. Many years ago, I actually cracked it right here. Just laid some stuff on it when it was in the trunk of the car. It cracked pretty damn easy. I was surprised. And what I did was I put a whole pile of epoxy fiberglass over here real thick. No problem. Never screwed up again after that. But anyway, first thing, I already went over the other video on how to fix the follower on these magazines. And actually, these 30 round magazines generally are not. The 15 round GI magazines are usually very, very reliable. 30 rounders usually can be, if depending on if you got them tuned up just right. Make sure this is empty. All right, it's empty. Also, this thing a little bit different the way this safety is. Forward is the safe is on. Back is the safe is off. It's kind of weird, huh? Now this, what you're supposed to do on a screw up here, you're supposed to actually, by the book, you're supposed to take a 30-06 round and stick it in here and unscrew this. Like, good luck, damn it. Probably I wouldn't, if I was using this thing out in the field, I'd either have this Leatherman tool with me, or I wouldn't tighten this up too much, to tell you the truth, because, but what it does is if you press this spring down, you don't want to take the screw all the way out. You press this spring down, you can slide this up. And, it's got a little spring in here. Now in mine, normally you got to take out this screw in the back here. This one, it just kind of lifts out. And the hand guards are stainless steel. Normally they'd be wood. Then, next thing, you got to pull this back. And, excuse me, not pull that back, pull this out. Careful how you do that, because you don't want to bend up this spring or kink it. This spring, see this long spring, and it's got this on the end of it right here. That goes into there. Just leave it on that instead. Next after this, actually you don't really need to take this off to do what I'm talking about. What it is this little plunger in here. Now mine is loose, you could see. I could pull it out with my finger, which is the way it should be. See the gases of the rifle, press that plunger out when it fires around. See, there's the barrel, right? In the barrel, and it fires. There's a gas port in there that presses this out, and you can see mine is nice. It works nice. Sometimes they stick though. Now there's actually a special tool for taking off this special nut that's in here, and you don't need to actually take off the this slide to work on this castle nut thing, whatever you want to call that. You don't need to take this off, but normally there's you rotate it. See where this notch is? You rotate, you bring this down, and you rotate this off to get this off. It comes off that way. You just rotate it off. Now this actually broke on mine. The guy one time a gunsmith brazed it, lasted about 5 shots, and then it was TIG welded on here. So this thing has never came off again. But I'll show you what the tool is to take the nut off, but I'm going to tell you that you don't need to do that. There's another method I use that's a lot simpler to clean that out. Well, you can see very clearly the piston that comes out of here, and here's a special nut that goes on there. It's like what you use is this tool. Actually, I have 3 of them. There's 2 of them right here. It's got a special end on it right there that grips this, and it's tight. You'll probably have to put this in a vise to get it out, because these are usually staked in here so they don't come loose. And that's the reason you really don't want to be taking this apart too much, because if you take that nut apart too many times, you're going to have to replace the nut. Also, there's a Type 2 nut that has a little bit of an indentation about this big that allows this piston, you can see this piston right here, travel just a little further down. And you can see this piston works fine. It falls by itself. You know, when it's that loose, it's fine. And here's the, I'll show you what the trick is. I want to tell you what to do. Okay, so you want to get a piece of brass and take some duct tape like this. And you don't need to make a perfect seal. This is actually 5.56 brass. This will work too, but 30 cal carbine. But the 5.56 actually goes in there nice too with the little neck, because it fits in there. And you don't need to get it in there like perfectly sealed. Then here's where you want to use something like this, PB Blaster. PB Blaster will do a better job of cleaning out the gas port in here than even like Hoppy's number 9 or 8 or something, bore cleaner. Spray it all down inside the barrel on the end, right? Get it down in there, just spray it all down in there, seal it up, and you can blow into the barrel tube or use a bicycle pump, but it's best if you got some air compressor, you could take some tape wrapped around the end of the air compressor, get a seal in here, and give it some shots of air, and you'll pop this piston loose down here. And a lot of times it isn't just carbon that's screwing this thing up. There's some corrosion in there. In my case, I don't know if there's too much corrosion. Well, mine works fine, but you know, this is a stainless steel barrel too, so I think this thing is actually stainless steel too. But in a lot of cases, there could be some corrosion down in that part, besides being fouled up with carbon. That's why you want to use PB Blaster. PB Blaster will work pretty good, and it saves you a lot of crap, because you don't need to take this nut off, because every time you take this nut off, you really should replace it. You don't, I mean, I haven't, but you should replace it. But this thing actually does work pretty damn reliably for me. I keep this 30 round magazine about half loaded. It does work right with 30 rounds. I got some GI, genuine GI in a wrapper, and I checked the followers on it, 15 round magazines. I put them back in the wrapper though. This weapon and my Mossberg 500 and my Beretta and my two Beretta, the Beretta 22 and the Beretta 9mm, are the ones I actually keep loaded at home. And why do I keep this one loaded? Because I trust it to work. The other thing is it's small and it's lightweight. I guess maybe and the other thing is it's not gonna be like over penetration like an AR-15, because you can fold this up. Basically, it's like a long pistol in a way, some ways. I mean, the barrel is over 16 inches. It's a regular carbine, but the folding stock with the pistol grip makes it very easy to handle. And it is pretty damn lightweight. But that's normally a lot of, well, you know what? There's a lot of different little issues that can actually happen with these weapons. But typically, it's the magazines. And if you fire them a lot, it's this thing. The piston and the piston block. And you might also want to watch for cracks up and around in here. You know, cause these aren't cracked or nothing, but you could, if it starts cracking, then you're going to have to replace that barrel. You know, there's one other thing I do too, because before I found out about, you know, the magazine trick, what I used to do was I used to take the ammunition and load it just a little less overall length, and that made it feed more reliably too. But if I'm using ammunition that I reload with just a little bit less overall length, with this piston block cleaned out really good, and also you like using well, there's another lube. I'll show you what I guess I'm going to make this video a little longer than I thought. But you know, besides tuning up the magazines, making sure this block is working good, making sure your extractor's working good. There's a particular type of lube I like to use too. I usually use brake free on everything, but if I want ultra reliability, I use something else. I'll show you what it is. And what I like using better than, well, I'll usually use CLP just on everything. I don't really go crazy with stuff. You know, Hoppy's #1 for bore cleaner, CLP for lubing. Penetrating oil, this BB blaster is not for lubing. Even though it says it does a little lubrication, it's not for lubing at all. But it seems to clean better when bore cleaner doesn't work, because I think it breaks down the rust better. But what I like putting on the weapons if I want ultra reliability is this Dillon Blue Magic. This stuff, Blue Magic, excuse me. Dillon Blue Magic. It's like it lasts a million years. You just put a tiny bit on there. You don't want it to track dirt. And I don't know what the hell it's got in there, but it works a hell of a lot better than CLP. It even makes the little 22 Jennings work really good with this shit. So, but you know, I trust this weapon thoroughly. And some people don't, some people do, some people have. Well, you know, these are cool weapons though. Actually, these used to be very popular. Well, even in the 70s. When the AR-15 platform started taking off, then these kind of got more out of vogue. And also back in the 60s, God, the GI versions of these carbines, they were like, man, you can get them for like practically nothing. I don't know, $15 or something. Now it's like $250 for a used barrel. This is not a GI version, obviously, because it's a stainless steel. But all you got to really do to get these loose, use PB blaster, seal up that chamber, blow some air in it. Or if you don't have any air, just let it sit and even blow some air in through your mouth or something, and it'll more than likely loosen it up. And once it loosens up, but I like using the air compressor, because after you get this loose and it's all cleaned out, I like blowing everything out with air, because this way, you know, when I'm blowing it out with air this way, I'm like washing out all the crap that's in there, so no stuff falls back in where this piston is. And you don't need to clean this all the time. You definitely don't need to clean this piston every time the rifle's fired, but every once in a while you should. But I don't take off this nut, and you know, these tools aren't too much money. I got a couple of these, but you don't want to be taking off that nut all the time. You want to use the old PB blaster method. It saves you a lot of work, and keeps you from constantly taking off this nut where you got to, you know, possibly you can booger up the threads in here. They got thread chasers for these things and all this other shit. And you know, it works just as well as anything, because you're getting it perfectly clean. I think PB blaster does a better job than bore cleaner in certain instances, and I think it's really because of how it destroys rust. I think there gets to be a little bit of corrosion in here, you know, after a while too. Besides the carbon, that's probably why the bore cleaner doesn't work so perfect. And I prefer blowing it out with air. I mean, you know, this thing works great though. I found out after firing this thing extensively, I found a number of tricks. This thing was not reliable when I first got it. Turned out to be the magazines. This piston was going after a while. The block in here actually broke off. That was one of the problems. And but after I got it all tuned up, I consider this as one of my go-to ultra reliable weapons now. And it's basically just a World War II design, so it's very good.